Welcome to the PD Pet Care Vlogs. Summer is a time of increasing day length, warmth. We think of beaches or lakes, getting outside more, doing the gardening and spending more time out with our dogs. So what are some of the risks over summer? I'm Dr. Cath and today we're going to cover off what I think are the 5 top things you should be aware of to make sure you keep your dog healthy over the summer months. So number 1 on my list is burnt pads. Might not be the most logical thing you'd think of, but when you think about the fact that we go out and about and we often put shoes on or jandals, and if it's really hot, we find it really sore on our feet, so we run really fast and get onto the grass. But if you're taking your dog out with you, maybe you're biking or going for a long walk or a run, and you're going to be on asphalt, concrete, anything like that, that surface can heat up really quickly and your dog doesn't have the benefit of wearing shoes. So you want to make sure that the temperature of that ground is something you can tolerate. So putting the back of your hand on that concrete surface, and you should be able to leave your hand there for 5 to 10 seconds comfortably. If you can, fine, pretty safe to go out with your dog as well. If you can't, it's getting too hot, and that's a bit like walking on your stovetop when it's really hot. And what can happen is the pads underneath their foot that they walk on, they can end up blistering, and that's pretty painful. Those are really sensitive tissues that if they get burnt, they're going to ulcerate, and then it's going to be really sore for them to walk. So staying off those hot surfaces, making sure you go out earlier in the day when everything hasn't heated up yet, and get the exercise done early. If you really do need to go out later in the day, then think about investing in some dog booties to help protect their feet on those hot surfaces. Or stay off the paved surfaces and try and stick more to grass and dirt that's not likely to get anywhere near as hot. So the second really big one over summertime is heat stroke. Hopefully everyone's aware you shouldn't leave your dog in a hot car. I'd argue you shouldn't actually leave your dog alone in a car ever. The inside of a car can heat up really, really quickly, so it doesn't actually have to be particularly hot outside. 25 degrees outside, ambient temperature, pretty pleasant for most of us. But if you're in a car, even with the windows just slightly cracked, that's a small surface and it can heat up really quickly. So within about 10 minutes, the inside of your car can be well over 35 degrees. That's getting pretty warm for anybody. The problem for dogs is that they can't sweat like we do. So when it starts getting hot, if you're anything like me, you start dripping all over the place. But for dogs, they have to pant. That's pretty much the only way they can lose heat. They can sweat a little bit through their pads, but that's a pretty small surface area. So otherwise it's all down to the panting. And what happens when you pant? They lose moisture into the environment. Not sure if you've ever been in a sauna, but in a sauna when it gets really warm and then someone pours water over the stones, suddenly it feels like it's even hotter. So you're now in a confined environment in a car where they're panting madly trying to lose heat. All that moisture from their breath is coming out into the environment, that's adding to the heat. So it doesn't take very long for that to get really, really warm in there. And the problem for dogs is once their body temperature starts going up 2-3 degrees, doesn't take very long at that point for their organs to literally start cooking. So the side effects of heat stroke, the brain won't cope at all. It starts denaturing your proteins, sets up a massive inflammatory response. Doesn't take very long at all for organ failure to set in, and spontaneous bleeding can happen as well. They get dehydrated really fast, and it is actually very difficult to reverse. Just cooling them down is not necessarily going to stop those processes. So you really want to avoid it in the first place. Cars obviously are the logical, really dangerous place, but just making sure that your dog's always got access to shade. Ideally the shaded area is going to have a wee bit of a breeze as well, somewhere that they can get into some water if they need to help cool down as well. I would avoid wetting towels and draping it over them, because those towels will end up heating up quite quickly, and particularly if they've got a dense coat, it actually traps the heat in even further. So a consistent water source, either hosing them off or a pool that they can jump in to cool down, much better than having something they can that you drape over them. But things like cool mats, which are like ice, you can fill them with ice cold water that they can choose to lie on if they want to as well. So those sort of things can all help them stay cool. But big one, making sure that they've got access to shade, because it's usually quite a lot cooler in the shade, and that access has to be something that they can move in and out of as they want to as well. So also over summertime, we tend to get out a bit more in places like beaches and lakes and maybe the bush a wee bit, but generally just out and about. If you've got a Labrador, a Schnauzer, or just a generally food obsessed dog, they're also more likely to end up scavenging stuff while you're out and about. So being aware of stuff that they may be able to get their mouths around and could cause them problems, and this just might be somebody else's rubbish that they get into. From the beaches, it might be things like jellyfish, which could be toxic to them. So there's a whole range of possibilities there. If you have got a dog who's prone to scavenging, then either you need to be super vigilant, keep them on the lead all the time, or perhaps even training them to wear one of those basket muzzles so they can still pant and drink and do all the usual things, but they can't actually consume objects into their mouths. So keeping them safe from ingesting stuff that they shouldn't. Summertime, increased warmth, we also tend to see more parasites, and in New Zealand that particularly means fleas, and if you live further north then it can often mean ticks as well, but in particular for fleas, while New Zealand's got a temperate climate and they can be a problem all year round, we seem to see them much more in summertime. So making sure you're keeping your flea treatment up to speed, whether that's a monthly treatment or a 3-monthly treatment, making sure you're checking them for fleas on their body, so the fleas or the flea dirt, but just being super aware that summertime's the time we like to see more of them. And then finally, sunburn. Same risk for us. While we do the slip, slop, slap, putting on your sunscreen, putting on a hat and covering up, you can do the same thing for your dogs. Obviously bearing in mind the heat stroke risk for dogs who have very thin skin or very thin hair coat, particularly underneath on their bellies, then potentially getting them a t-shirt that they wear to help keep their skin protected from the sun. You can use sunscreen, often it ends up licked off pretty quickly. The big thing is keeping them out of the sun where possible. Particularly the bull terrier type breeds, bull mastiff type breeds, who often have no hair in their tummies and love to sunbathe lying on their backs, and they can be very prone to skin cancer. Same with white noses, white eyelids, or lack of pigment in those areas, and ears. Skin cancer is a very real thing for dogs, just as the same as for humans. So making sure you keep them out of the peak sun hours where possible, providing plenty of shade, and like I say, covering up where you can. So I hope that's going to help you enjoy your summer and reduce the risk for injuries and illness for your furry companions as well.